However many times I come to this show, I will never get bored of that view. I think it's absolutely stunning.
It's very special, isn't it?
But also, this show is massive.
Yeah.
And I get home each time and I realise that I've missed something. So I think we need a plan.
Okay.
I mean, I'm up for a plan, but isn't it quite nice sometimes not to have one? And then you just see what you encounter. There's so much more spontaneous. You know, the vibe of the festival can be soaked up.
Okay, I'm going to step in here just to keep the peace, right? So we're going to do a little bit of soaking up of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And lots of marching around, making sure we see everything.
You know what I love
Because
about it?
there's masses.
I love the fact that it's just always diplomatic.
At least we'll miss less if we do it that way, I think.
This is true.
Welcome to Gardener's World from Hampton Court Palace Garden Festival.
Just how big is this festival, though?
Over 30 acres.
Really?
Yeah.
There are 13 show gardens this year and more than 100 exhibitors, you know, nurserymen and women who just know everything about plants. It's going to be fantastic. And roses.
I knew you were going to forget the roses. See, not only are you diplomatic, you're also...
Yes, a fanatic.
Yeah. So, here's a little taste as to what makes this flower show so special and what we're about to enjoy in the next hour.
Hampton Court Palace, a royal setting for the summer celebration of gardening, featuring this season's hottest plants, colours and design, held in the majestic Deer Park.
It really feels like a festival. The sun's shining, there's happy faces everywhere, there's ice cream being eaten.
Across the site, gardens are set to impress, giving everything from stylish outdoor vibes to natural havens.
We love the excitement of the show, and we're hoping that this little one will grow up to love it too.
I love this show so much. I've been coming for 20 years. There's something here for everybody.
We'll be meeting one of the designers who's added a wild twist to their garden in the hope of encouraging some very charming guests.
Hedgehogs are classified as vulnerable to extinction, so they really need our help. So as gardeners, I think there's a lot we can do.
For many, the main stage at this event is the floral marquee, brimming with seasonal blooms, rare specimens, and heady scent.
We'll be catching up with a first-time exhibitor and British flower farmer who's showing off her seasonal cut flowers for the very first time.
They just want to please you. I feel very similar to dahlias as I feel about my spaniel.
And with a backdrop this glamorous, you can expect a few show-stopping surprises and familiar faces along the way.
I think Hampton is the one that you could most closely compare to the sort of the Glastonbury of garden festivals.
We'll meet a couple bringing flavour, colour and a bit of fiery heat to this year's festival.
What I like about chilies is that people become really fanatical about them.
Once you get hooked, you just want to keep growing more of it, which works well for us.
It's a show with feel-good energy.
Right, I'm too excited. I can't wait any longer. I'm going to see roses. And I'll see you later.
Lovely.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Well, sure you do.
Do you fancy some show gardens?
Yeah, come on.
All right.
Come on.
This is a pretty lovely show garden to be standing in, isn't it?
If I had to use one word to describe this, I would say elegant.
I think that's a very good word, actually.
Yeah.
I'd say romantic as well.
Yeah.
This water, on a day like this, you just want to get in it. And the sound of it's obviously quite a dramatic element of this garden as well, isn't it?
It is, if you close your eyes.
Yeah.
Sound, but then every now and then, you get a waft of that Trappist burner.
Yeah, in this hot weather, it's really oozing its fragrance,
So
isn't it?
ticking all the senses, you know?
Yeah, massively. I mean, the planting is very exquisite, but it's like, you know, really minimal palette, limited, so you've got kind of whites, purples and blues. And I like the way the shapes are quite striking in the actual plants. You've got these spires of the Veronicastrum and the Salvia, and then lots of umbels playing against it.
For me as well, I really love the materials. I just think they set the tone. And sometimes when you use light surfaces on a day like this, the light bounces.
Yeah, I agree.
But actually it's soaking it up, and that adds to that, as you described, romantic feel.
Well, I have found a Bohemian balcony to rest on. I love this garden. I could have this garden.
I feel like I should now be singing to you.
I'd rather you didn't.
I won't, I promise you. I'm trying to count up the different materials, you know, everything's sort of reclaimed, and you feel like, first of all, there's maybe too many, but actually, in reality, it works.
Why do you think that is?
Ultimately, it's driven by that colour. You've got that dark cork that's picked up, but then also the use of textures really sit well together.
And I love that what this gives is a sort of warmth of history and humanity.
Yeah.
Like these shutters, these have had a life, you know, these are somebody's, this chair. Everything in this garden feels like somebody has loved it, and then it's been built with that love kind of as part of its bones.
Because you could say the same about the planting, couldn't you?
Yes, you definitely could. It's not got one cohesive style.
Yeah.
You know, someone's gone out and they've gone, oh, you know what, I really like GMs, I'll get that. Oh, that's a nice echinacea. That's a nice Chinese licorice. That's unusual. Let's have that. And then they've shoved it all together, and somehow it feels like just a person has done this. Bath on the balcony, I mean, I hadn't thought of it before. I suppose it depends what your neighbours are like. But I'm up for it.
I think at that point we'll move on, shall we? Maybe we should. What do you think?
This is nice.
This is right up your street, but I love the wall. It's called a Jali wall, that idea of you're being wrapped. It creates this amazing atmosphere in here.
It's like a modern iteration of a walled garden. This is my kind of planting scheme. I love it. You know, it's full temperate rainforest, but with, you know, digitalis, and I love the devil's bit scabious. It's one of my favourite plants. But then all the ferns.
I mean, ultimately, this garden's talking about that loss of temperate rainforest.
But seeing it represented in this way, yeah, it raises awareness, but it's so modern.
Yeah.
I love the contemporary representation of it with this really blocky, geometric, hard landscaping.
And you know, interestingly, we talk about habitats. The one thing that I love that keeps catching my eye is the little Kittileia patches. Just a reminder that not all our ground needs to be covered in planting.
With that, the walls are filled with insect habitat because of the holes that keep the temperature down.
Perforate,
That's their design.
Yeah.
But they double up as insect habitat. So there is provision here, not just for plants.
Yeah. Can we just sort of stay?
I see why that's tempting, but no. Let's go and see some more gardens.
I knew you were going to say that.
Ah, now this is a real treat for me because July at Hampton Court means roses, and it's so beautiful being surrounded by all this fragrance and colour. But there's a new rose this year that I've come to take a closer look at. This is Linda Lee. Really beautiful shrub rose, fairly compact, so it's good in a pot, but also would look good towards the front part of a border. And I love that dark green, really healthy looking foliage. And the flowers are so beautiful in buds, small buds, pale peach, and then they open, they get a little bit more pink in the colour as well. And then as they fully open, you've got this nice shaped flower that the stamens are on show, so really good for pollinators to access in the centre. It's gorgeous to look at, and I'm told it smells as good as it looks. It's light, fruity, and perfect. Always such a joy to see a new rose. Now, over in the Floral Marquee, a British flower grower is making their debut here at Hampton Court, and we went and visited them a few days ago to see how they were getting on with their preparations for the show.
Dahlias are my absolute love. There's just something about them. It's the way they're so architecturally perfect. They put on a massive show-stopping display, and they're fabulous cut flowers. I mean, what can you not love about something that opens and is so pretty as this? I'm Rachel Golding Barrett, and I'm the owner of the Tetbury Flower Company, and we are a flower farm and nursery in the South Cotswolds. We're a relatively new flower farm. This is only our third commercial season. We're a specialist in tulips and dahlias. We are just over an acre, and we grow all sorts of complementary flowers so that we can supply British seasonal flowers from March through to the first frost in October. Ever since I was a child, I've always been growing. So whether it's a metre squared patch or whether it's a border in a garden. I got into cut flowers because people started asking me with the dahlias, can I have some stems for a local church? Can I have some stems for a party? And I'd happily cut them. To be able to go out and cut a bouquet of flowers for your kitchen table, that sense of beauty and satisfaction is what we're trying to help people with. Going to Hampton Court is a big challenge for us. I'm not going to lie, there have been times when I've been thinking, oh, are we going to pull this off? But for me, the most important thing is the plants and the flowers look in good condition. These are our show dahlias that we've produced for Hampton Court. You can see that some of them are just coming into bud now. This one here, this is Ivana. This should be about this big, so this is just at the start of its flowering journey. Overall, we estimated that we would need about 120 plants, and I think we've probably grown about 500 to get those 120. This is all about being a new exhibitor, and I'm sure with more experience, we wouldn't be doing it on this scale. Here on the farm, we grow 55 different types of dahlia. What I think is so incredible about them is that they do work as a cut flower and in the garden. This dahlia is Arabian Night. This is a small flowered decorative, very, very dark petal colour. And the reason we're taking this one to Hampton Court is because it flowers first. And it's not unusual to see this in flower in June. It's also got a very long stem length, which is great for a cut flower. They love the heat, so they're doing particularly well this year because it's been so hot. What it does mean is that a few more dahlias will be open than I previously thought a month ago. This is our Cotswold salmon. This is the one that we've bred. Look, there's a little butterfly on there. The reason why this one's so special to me is because this throws up a lot of stems. It lasts brilliantly in the vase. It creates great tubers at the end of the season, and it's perfect in a border. So we do grow this as a cut flower. We do cut it a lot. From one plant in the season, I'll be cutting 10 stems from this. I love the fact that they're such triers. Any plant that's not too precious flowers its socks off and really, really, really does its best for you. You can't ask better than that. It's a bit like a dog. They just want to please you. I feel very similar to dahlias as I feel about my spaniel. It's just so stupid. I think the thing about going to Hampton Court is it's the most beautiful show I think I've ever been to. This is our mock-up display. This is the second time that we've actually mocked up this stand. Inside here is a stable bucket and some chicken wire. And around the bucket, it is supported by some packing. So this is a totally foam-free arrangement, just using two simple mechanics. And you can see with the foliage and how it sort of branches and everything, that then gives you your stability. Everything that's going on that display has been grown here on the farm. Either the show plants that we potted up a couple of months ago, or if we're short, we're going to go and dig them up out of the field. The fact that we're going to Hampton Court so soon after we've set up is just testament to how much demand there is for British flowers. I love growing the flowers. I love having people here on the farm. I love seeing people's face when they come to pick up their buckets of flowers. And I think going to Hampton Court, it's a validation that all the hard work is worth it.
Rachel.
Hello.
Wow, what a display. I'd love some really good tips for cutting dahlias. So when should we be doing it and how?
What you want to be doing is looking for 40 centimetres down on your cutting grade dahlias and cutting just above a leaf node, and then that will spur the plant to bush out, and before you know it, you've got multiple stems coming off one plant. So in terms of when you cut them, we tend to cut very early in the morning. There is a rule that you shouldn't cut flowers if you can feel the sun on the back of your head. We cut very early at about 5 o'clock in the morning, but I realise that's not realistic for everybody. So the best advice I can give people is to cut into water. It's just best not to cut in full sun because it doesn't give them the best vase life.
Well, I notice a very nice medal there. Does that mean we're going to see you back again?
Well, the RHS is actually moving this show to Badminton next year, which is right on our doorstep. So we're less than a mile from where the show site is. But yeah, I hope we'll be back.
Excellent. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you. I think you've done a fantastic job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Even after all these years of creating gardens, it still blows my mind the moment you start adding flowers, how quick in wildlife find them. Look in here, sort of hoverflies, and there's bees stomping around. And on that note, there's a young designer who's putting a wild twist onto his pocket garden border, hopefully to attract a very special guest, although that guest is vulnerable to extinction.
As much as we think we own them, gardens are essentially a shared space with us and wildlife. I love seeing all the birds, all the insects pollinating and feeding off these flowers here. It's such a hopeful, joyous feeling. It just feels right, you know. We should be encouraging as much nature as we can in all parts of our gardens. My name is Henry T. Pope, and I'm a garden designer based in Bristol. I live with my girlfriend just around the corner from here. When I do have a garden of my own, I'd love for it to be similar to the garden I'm creating for Hampton Court, with deep borders, lots of wildflowers, and a water source to help wildlife. I'm a big fan of all wildlife, but the hedgehog's got a special place in my heart. So what I've wanted to do with this design is make a garden which is mainly for hedgehogs. It's heartbreaking to know that hedgehog numbers are declining in the UK, so I'm really hoping that my garden will help encourage people to help support them. So you can see here we've got quite a deep planting border with lots of perennials which are popping up through this kind of mass of planting. I've also got some log piles to attract insects, and I've got a wonderful hedgehog house made lovingly for me by one of my mum's neighbours, Chris, which is going to be a real feature of the show, and I'm really excited to show off. Seeing hedgehogs in your garden is just such an amazing experience. I think a lot of people go through life living in the UK, in the cities, not realising how close they are. This is my friend Lucy's garden. She volunteers with the BS3 Hedgehog Project, and they try and do as much as they can to support and educate about hedgehogs. Her garden here is a haven, and she gets hedgehog visitors every evening. So hopefully, if we're patient and we hang about long enough, we might get to see some later. What makes this garden so good is its relaxed approach to gardening. Letting your grass grow long, as you can see around me, is great for wildlife. If you have got a lawn, consider leaving either some of it or all of it, or you could mow the edges, which still makes it feel neat and tidy, but it means that the longer grass is providing great habitat for hedgehogs to move freely around, but also allows some wild flowers and things to pop up. This is just your bog standard lawn grass, and just being left grow long creates this amazing visual impact. You've got these kind of swaying around, which are beautiful. So we've got plums, we've got pears, we've got cherries, we've got lots of different variety of fruiting trees. Not only do they flower, but they provide fruit for birds and insects to eat on, which then will also provide more food for hedgehogs. Hedgehogs are omnivores and they can forage up to a mile each night. Hedging is particularly good because it means they can move freely between gardens. It also provides cover and shelter for them. If you don't have any hedges in your garden and you've just got fences, something which you can do is you can put a small hole, maybe in the corners of the fences. Obviously, it's really good to talk to your neighbours firstly about that. You only need 13 by 13 centimetres. This means that the hedgehogs will be able to move freely throughout all the gardens. It's coming out. The hedgehog's just there. Oh, it's getting even closer. Hedgehogs are classified as vulnerable to extinction, so they really need our help. So as gardeners, I think there's a lot we can do. It's really uplifting to be able to see that this garden's providing an ecosystem rich enough to support such life. The more gardens we can have like this that are encouraging wildlife, the more we can see them thrive in our cities. Seeing this hedgehog tonight has really inspired me. I'm really excited to get to Hampton Court and start planting.
Well, Henry, you've done it. This is a garden that's beautiful, full of flowers. I can see that there's insects absolutely everywhere. How have you made this about the hedgehogs? What about this garden would appeal to them?
Open pollinator friendly plants are always great to create this ecosystem for hedgehogs, but here I've made sure that we've got a fair few shrubs. So I've used Cornus albus iberica. This is a deciduous shrub. It means it's going to drop its leaves each year, which is microhabitats for insects, also potential nesting materials for hedgehogs, but also provides cover. Sure. So if you've got some shrubs and stuff, having that kind of canopy for them to hide under is ideal. And then alongside the shrubs, I've got a few plants that have kind of like lateral growth. So I've got some of the geraniums. I've got Azure Rush, which is a sister of Roseanne, essentially, and like the Disjampsias, which offer the vertical height, but also that kind of bushy growth that hedgehogs can like snuffle their way through.
And what's the best way to maintain a garden when you're thinking about hedgehogs?
I mean, the first thing to do is not use any pesticides or herbicides, especially when it comes to like slug pellets or things like that. So obviously, as we know, hedgehogs, gardeners' best friends, eating slugs. We don't want to have any kind of poison in there.
There's also water, which is really helpful for any wildlife.
This one's just an upturned dustbin lid with
Yeah.
some stones in it. And so even just using that, all the insects using that all week, the hedgehogs can use that. It's nothing too deep that hedgehogs can fall in, not be able to get out. But yeah, that's a key part of any wildlife garden.
But it's your first ever show garden.
Yeah, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it and I'm honoured to have a silver gilt medal.
Well done. Henry's Garden is just one of these pocket planting borders, and they are full of ideas that we can take home and use in our own gardens, like this one. It's beautiful, it's full of exquisite blues, whites and purple planting, but what I really love are these bamboo features. They add verticals to the overall design, they look lovely, but they have a function. These fill up with rainwater that will slowly seep away and water all the plants in the area. So it's a really good water storage solution, as well as looking very, very stylish. This garden is filled with a sort of burned, umbery, orange palette, which I really like. But it goes very well with the thing I love, which is reclaimed bricks. I have them all through my own garden. I also do pottery, but this is a whole nother step. There's earthenware clay that's been formed into faces and ears on the ends of the bricks and then fired. I just think it's really cool. I love how some of them are looking at each other and some of them are asleep, and you know, there's character with reclaimed things, but these have actual characters, which is rather lovely. We're used to seeing gravel gardens now. They're becoming more and more common, but this is a proper coastal garden, and I love a coastal garden. It reminds me of home. This has got some lovely shells actually in the gravel that really brings you to the seaside and brings the seaside to you if you were to put something like this in your own garden. But it's got some lovely coastal flora. There's sea hollies, there's cornflowers, which I know from experience will grow very well right by the sea. So if you wanted to bring a little bit of holiday to your own home, you couldn't go wrong with something like this.
You need to look at that. It's a late flowering allium called Allium Red Mohican, and it starts as that beautiful tight drumstick, and as it ages, it pops at the top and you get that Mohican, and yeah, it stops you in your tracks and you think, yeah, I want to take that home. But what I would say is slow down a minute. Don't just run to the counter and buy that. Look at the plants around it. You've got Rhingium called Yuccifolium, and that's got a smaller head on it, but lovely colour tones. And then at the back there, you've got an Agastache, which is called Blackadder. And then the grasses coming up through. That scene is perfection. So really, what's making that allium star is 3 other plants. So if you're looking, look at the group, not just that individual. But although, yes, I go home with a boot full of plants when I come to this show, it's also a wonderful place for me just to catch up with friends and growers that I have known for years. Now, I'm off to see Rob and Rosie Hardy, who for me are celebrating something rather special. I cannot believe you have been coming to this show, creating these beautiful displays for 35 years, is that right?
It is, and I can't believe it either. I have no idea where that time has gone.
So, whose idea was the first one when you had that conversation? I knew you were going to do that. At that time, what was the nursery setup?
This. It was at the back of our garden. We had a little semi-detached with one of those really long, 180-yard long gardens, and it was just covered in pots. That was it. We did our first 2 Hampton Courts from that back garden.
So that was 2 years in, that was 92?
1992, yeah.
Second display, yeah.
And that was the...
That's the gold medal.
Yeah. So that was your first gold medal here?
Yeah.
What has changed for you as far as sort of plants, how you view this show, you know, what we plant in our gardens?
You know, I've always said you've got to plant for the situation that you've got in your garden, and I've always been that, you know, right plant, right place.
Yeah.
Do with what you've got, and you can make life easy, and you can create wonderful gardens.
So, one plant that is on there that's going to be the star of the show this year?
I would say it's going to be the Anisodonte El Rayo, and it flowers all year round.
Just keeps going.
I've had it in flower with snow on top of it, so you can keep it smaller by being mean, or you can have it bigger, but you have to prune, and people hate that because they have to cut it when it's got flower on it.
Yeah. Let's not leave him out.
Oh well, he has something else he enjoys and likes.
The other one I like is Oenothera, which used to be called Gora.
Yeah.
It likes well-drained soil, sunny position, and this one is one that Rosie bred, so it goes up to about 4 feet tall.
Rosie, Rob, more than anything, I'm looking forward to the next 35 years.
I don't know. I'll be pushing up daisies.
You won't.
Oh.
You won't. You'll still be here doing it. You will.
It would be nice, I must admit. I do love being at the shows. And meeting all the people coming through are looking for plants to put into their gardens.
Brilliant.
When you step inside this garden, your eye is immediately drawn upwards. And it's a very good reminder that for many of us,
Our fences and walls take up a huge portion of the view, up to a third in some cases.
so it's a great idea to use those spaces as part of our planting schemes. And that's what this garden does. Now, there is an effect called urban heat islands. And that's the idea that in our urban spaces, towns and cities, the temperature is a lot higher. That's partly because there's less wind to cool things down, but also when the sun bakes stone and concrete, it really warms up. And that heat is retained, especially at night time. So at night time, it can be up to 7 degrees warmer in a city than it would be in the countryside. But if you add plants, that effect is really reduced. Now, this green wall is planted in containers, and it has to cope with a lot of shade when it's vertical. So things like Muehlenbeckia, ferns, Hackenichloas and ivy are all very able to do that. But what I love about this is there's some really interesting additional species. So things like Fatsias, acers and lovely Sephoras that will all grow out to be quite big shrubs or even small trees and reach out just like they're growing on a natural cliff face. So in years to come, this will look really beautiful. Irrigation that's going through all the pots and fertilizer every now and again will keep these looking really healthy. But if you'd like something a little bit simpler that doesn't require so much irrigation and feeding, you can stick with classic climbers. Now, these are all Chacalospermum, so they're evergreen, they have lovely flowers, and they're really scented. So as well as keeping things cool and beautiful, the garden will smell fantastic as well.
So this little space is an edible forest garden. So all the trees go in, then you come down a layer, you've got currants, things like the honeyberry, and then you've got the herbs go through, the edible flowers, and the whole thing's been created by the London National Park City Rangers. Yes, I know, it sounds like a football club. In all honesty, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know a lady that does. Hello, Casey.
Hello, Adam.
You're enjoying the sunshine?
I really am.
What is a London National Park Ranger?
It's a group of people that have come together, and what it is, it's people that want to green their area.
Yeah.
They want to do more for the environment
Yeah.
in their little part of London.
And totally volunteer driven.
Very much volunteer driven.
Yeah. And how many of you is there?
Just over 300 of us now.
So, Katie, just give us, a few different types of projects.
For me, we've got Folkestone Road allotment, where we have people who are deaf and hard of hearing that are completely included.
Yeah.
And then we've got an urban forest garden just for children with special needs.
Wow.
And they have actually made some of the little butterflies that you can see.
So when you joined, how have you seen it evolve?
We've got a more diverse community been involved. The plants, they're colourful, but they don't see our colour. So they treat us all equally. We treat them well, they treat us better. So, and that's what London's all about, a melting pot.
Yeah.
Everyone getting together and living harmoniously. People can come. If they're a bit isolated, they can come and sit on the chair, wait for someone to come and sit next to them, and that's where the conversation starts.
When this gets broken down, does this go to other places in London?
Okay, what's happening? All the rangers have had the opportunity to put in a bid for part of the garden. We're going to make sure that everything has a home. Not only a home to go to, but they've got to demonstrate that they can keep it and maintain it, so you don't go back in 3 months' time and there's nothing there.
I'm smiling at you because I know now that you're completely and utterly hooked.
I am hooked, I'm hooked. Okay, but you're hooked as well.
Yeah, I
You've
know.
been hooked longer than me.
I know.
Here in the Floral Marquee, the air is absolutely thick with the most incredible fragrances. There's roses, lilies, jasmines, sweet peas. It's really intoxicating. But I have been pulled here to this slightly different form of smell. This is the unmistakable, fresh, amazing mint. one of my favourite herbs. The ones I particularly am drawn to are the natural forms of mint. So there's this beautiful Atlas Mountain, that's from Morocco. And then this one, which I absolutely wouldn't recognise as a mint unless I knew it was, it's called Habeck, and this is from the Middle East. But the one that's really excited me is one I never even knew existed. A British native mint. This is corn mint. And it doesn't quite have the same strong aroma as the others, but it's absolutely beautiful in form and will grow really well in your garden. Of course, mint is one of the best known members of the Lamiaceae family. And this year, the feature border gardens celebrate all the diversity that plants have to offer.
I could definitely imagine myself sipping something in this eminently drinkable garden, because many of the plants here are from the Lamiaceae family, chosen specifically for their fragrance and flavour. Aromatic foliage is a hallmark of the Lamiaceae family, and this is Perovskia Blue Spire. Wonderful silvery foliage, but if you just slightly crush it in your fingers, the scent is so powerful. Now, those essential oils produced by the leaves are important because they deter some of the less beneficial insects, the aphids, mosquitoes and things like that. A little warning saying, keep away from me. The Lamiaceae family is remarkably diverse, encompassing not only aromatic herbs, but also striking wild flowers, shrubs, and even trees. Many of its members are standout performers in garden borders, offering bold form and long-lasting interest with strong appeal to pollinators. Flowers in the Lamiaceae family tend to be long and tubular, and that means they're best suited to pollinators that have a long tongue so they can reach right to the back to get to the nectar. And this one's really caught my eye. It's called Lion's Tail, and it's a native of South Africa. These wonderful, strong orange flowers. And this is actually pollinated by hummingbirds. But that hasn't stopped the bees from buzzing around. They're very interested. It's not hardy, so it's something that you would have to grow somewhere frost-free, maybe put it in a pot and you could have it in the garden and then move it into a greenhouse over the winter. But the Monarda is hardy in British gardens, and it's got that sort of similar, rather exotic look. And the other thing that's caught my eye are the salvias. This one here is tangerine and pineapple. Sounds rather delicious. Plants in the Lamiaceae family have long been grown for their medicinal properties. This garden is very much inspired by those medicinal qualities, but it's also a really good lesson, I think, in terms of design, because I love the way that they've built some height here. So they're using things like the agastache, and then it comes down a layer. We've got the Salvia caradonna, so you're blending those soft mauves with the dark purples, and then we're going through into the Nepetas. So it really works in terms of garden design, but also is a nod to the history of the medicinal properties in these plants. Lamiaceae is one of the most adaptable and rewarding plant families you can work with. Many species are drought tolerant and flourish in poor soils, making them ideal for sustainable and low maintenance gardens. Whether you're designing a garden for well-being, for biodiversity, perhaps for culinary purposes, or just to have a beautiful space, the whole Lamiaceae family offers so many brilliant options. It's not just about the garden looking good, it's about it being good for all of us.
One of the things I love most about Hampton Court is the sheer abundance of all the produce here. There are allotment gardens like this, there are grow your own displays, and there are so many practical tips from all the passionate growers here. A few weeks ago, we caught up with a couple whose love of chilies took them from a chilly north-facing greenhouse in Aberdeen to now growing nearly 100 different kinds in sunny Devon.
Running a chili farm sounds so completely random to most people when we tell them that's what we do. Got a bit of dirt on the leaf.
I have to pinch myself every day I come in. When I walk around and I have all of this to look after, I can grow things and experiment, do things that I wasn't able to do in my previous career.
I'm glad that we made the move from one extreme end of the UK to the other. Having never imagined that I would run a chili farm, here I am. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Amrit.
And we're a husband and wife team who grow a whole world of chilies down here in South Devon, from the mild and fruity to the mind-blowingly hot. What I like about chilies is that people become really fanatical about them.
Once you get hooked, you just want to keep growing more of it, which works well for us.
3 years ago, we took over the site. We've expanded it now so that we've got 8 crop tunnels and 2 nursery tunnels. Overall, there's about 140 different varieties.
3 years ago, we were living in the far northwest of Scotland, in Aberdeenshire.
I was working in finance. Amrit was in the energy industry.
So our little lean-to greenhouse, that was north-facing, so it was a challenge. But we still managed to grow lots of padrons. I think we didn't buy any padrons, certainly from the supermarket.
This is one that we introduced in our first year of growing at the farm. Anyone who likes a little chili that packs a lot of heat for a recipe but doesn't have much growing space to do it with, this is definitely a good pick, the Cha-Cha. It's such a compact little plant. This is about as big as it will get. As you can see, it's so prolific with the fruits. They ripen to orange, so when they start turning colour, it looks kind of like licks of flames coming up from the plant. And you can just keep picking these fruits off, pop them in the freezer and be using them all year. My mum sent us a link to the chili farm, which was for sale. She said to me, "Don't tell Amrit." So the first thing I did was show Amrit.
And it just started snowballing, and here we are. My passion for growing came from growing up in the Caribbean, in Trinidad. My parents, my grandparents, they're all farmers. But growing chilies and vegetables as a hobby in Aberdeen is very different from growing it at scale. Initially, it was like, oh, look at all these chili plants I can play with. It's not exactly like that when you're doing it as a business. Obviously, we took on the planting plan, so we just ran with it. And then it was the second year on, then we started really tweaking how we want to do things.
Now that all the friends and family know that Amrit has the chili farm, every time he turns up, someone's got something to give him. From so-and-so, my neighbour, my friend, has this plant, here's some seeds.
And it's always wrapped up in it.
He just comes home with tiny bits of tissue with seeds in.
Yeah, and then half the time I don't remember what it looks like. So we have to grow it on and take pictures and try and understand what the character of the chili is. One variety is called a Trinidad pimento.
So as soon as the word got out that we were growing this chili a couple of years ago, I think every Trini in the UK was on the email or on the phones to Amrit trying to get hold of it. We could not get it off the plants quick enough, could
Yeah,
we?
we couldn't. They can't believe the sheer quantity of chili plants we grow here. They're completely amazed by it, because some of the plants we grow are better than the ones they grow back home. Growing chilies in the UK, you have a very short season. You have to start sowing your seeds January, February, March to be able to harvest some of the super hot varieties September on to sort of October, November when it gets really cold. It needs that long, protracted summer to get something out of it.
This one is called a Hungarian hot wax. It's a very mild chili. These plants are fantastic for growing in the UK because you can use the fruits before they're fully ripe. The longer you leave them on the plant, the sweeter they'll get. They'll grow a little bit hotter, but less than half the heat of a jalapeno. The reason why I love these is because I like the chilies that are quite fleshy because I like to stuff them with cream cheese and fried. My idea of heaven. This is Purple Tiger, and this is one of the varieties that we'll be bringing to Hampton Court with us this year. It's quite unusual in that it's got a variegated leaf, and the chili fruits themselves do sometimes have a slight stripe to them. This one also has purple flowers, which is unusual again in that most chilli flowers are white. Even though we call this an ornamental chilli, the fruits are absolutely still edible. They ripen to red and they'll be perfectly tasty when they get to that colour.
So this year we're going to be at Hampton Court.
It feels pretty surreal, to be honest. We've always visited the RHS events, haven't we? Always kind of blown away by the displays.
Yeah. When I brush shoulders with somebody growing delphiniums or clematis or whatever, and they've been doing it, and they're master growers or they've got a national collection, you're there next to them, you think, wow.
We absolutely think our chilies deserve to be there in all their rainbow glory. As soon as they've got fruit on, they just look brilliant, don't they?
Yeah.
They're still a bit unusual in an RHS event, but in a good way.
Amrit, that is a fascinating story. And you obviously described me perfectly in that film, in that actually I promise each year that I'm going to buy 3 chilies at the most. And like we are now, I ended up surrounded with them. And I don't know what to do with them to get the best out of them.
Sure. If you're growing a really, really hot chili,
yeah,
you would make a chili sauce out of it. That's the natural thing to do. If you want to make something that you can then use more on a daily basis and has a more versatile use, you'd probably grow something like this, Santa Fe Grande. And this is a fantastic chili to pickle.
Yeah.
Because it has a nice thick wall to it. You can put it into a brine and it just takes naturally to that. It works really well. And then you can then put that into a sandwich.
So how would you go a little bit further? How would you pickle it?
So it depends what kind of flavor profile you want from the chili. If you want something sweeter, you'd let the chili ripen on the plant a bit more, let the sugars develop a bit more. If you wanted something which is a bit more, dare I say, grassy, that green flavor you get from a green pepper, you'd pick it at any stage that you particularly want it, and then you slice it up, you make up a brine, and the brine doesn't have to be very complicated. It can be water, sugar, a bit of aromatic, so some peppercorns, a bay leaf, a bit of clove.
And how long would that last in a jar?
It could last many, many months. It never lasts that long in the fridge.
No, exactly. So when it comes to something like that Santa Fe, what's that final flavour really like?
Well, I've got a jar right here that we can try.
Go on.
I promise I'm not gonna.
You're not gonna stitch me up,
No, no, no.
Okay.
And I'll try one just to prove that I'm not poisoning you.
That's really good.
Nice crunch.
But sweet.
Yeah.
And then that wall starts to come.
But it's not blowing your head off.
No.
And you taste the chili.
And then it stays around.
Yeah. It's a perfect chili for, you know, pickling and doing that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, because I'm now going home with some idea as what I'm going to do with my 14 different chilies. Brilliant, mate. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Whenever you come to a flower show, you'll find nursery stands that grow a bit of everything, but there are always some that have chosen to focus on one particular group of plants. And here, the plant heritage stands give those specialist growers a place where they can showcase their chosen plant, and we can all find out why they love them so much. And there's one particular stand that's really caught my eye. These little rays of sunshine are Santolina, otherwise known as cotton lavender. Hi Jess, this is looking very beautiful. Are you pleased with it?
I'm so pleased, yeah.
What is it about Santolina that you love? Because you're the national collection holder of them, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's because it's an easy growing plant, drought tolerant, so you know, people can pop it in a pot, leave it in the courtyard and forget about it if they go on holiday, which is great.
Because people generally think of lavender and other plants like that as that kind of a role, and Santolina may be a little bit overlooked.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
A lot of people have made comments the last couple of days that they always thought it was that really intense yellow, but they come in different shades, from really bright yellow to creams as well.
I love yellow, but I think it's fallen out of favour a little bit in terms of fashion. I think people will hopefully rethink it.
A lot of people are having trouble with their box hedging at the moment, and this would be a great alternative to put in, even if it's trimmed really tightly. If there's no flowers on it at all, it's evergreen, so it's great through the winter.
And when and how do you cut them to keep that neat shape?
Best to give it a really nice trim back early spring.
Okay.
So once the frost is lifted, give it a nice hard cut back so it gets that structure for the year. And then again after flowering, just to keep the shape.
How many have you got in your collection?
We've got 17 here today.
Do you have any particular favourite ones?
Lemon fizz always turns people's heads, I think. For smell-wise, Insulari, which is more of a rare one, but Small Ness, that's a real tight, compact one. So a lot of people that don't have a lot of space, that's a great one to put in, right at the front of a border.
And I presume they like a sunny, quite dry position.
Intense heat is best, because obviously Mediterranean based, and don't have wet feet through the winter.
They'll have loved it here this week then.
Oh yes, very, very warm.
Well, really well done. This is your first ever display, isn't it?
It is, yeah, my first exhibit at Hampton.
Well, hopefully we'll see you many, many more times.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I guess there's a whole new meaning to the word hop for you now.
Yeah, just a bit. I'm still carrying a little heat in my... Actually, they tasted really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, come and cool down
Yeah.
in this very relaxing green space. I really like these steel rods. Well, they give a sort of sense that you're in a pergola,
Yeah.
and yet you're not. It's
Yeah.
like an essence of pergola
Yeah.
and the verticals.
And actually interesting in these London plains, that colouring and that peeling picks up, doesn't it?
It
On the
does.
detail.
And I really like that that creates sort of like an essence of roof here as well, with these really heavily pruned
Yeah, it makes
trees.
you feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
canopy, but it's not. It's like a ghost
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
pergola
yeah.
with a roof. You know, I like that.
And you've got this sort of reflective surface where you more or less want to... You can see
Check,
the...
check if you've got seeds in your teeth.
You're good. You can see that reflective bit going in there, which
Yeah.
is lovely. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there we go. This is a wild space. What do you think?
I love it, actually. It feels like end of the day, end of the garden, chill.
I agree, and a celebration of compost,
I
which in a show garden is a rare thing.
I know, seriously, if I could take one thing home, that compost bed, I think it's a great idea. And the fact as well is, you know, that's composting, it's a habitat, but I love the way that the seed heads have been saved and they've been placed on top, and it creates like a feature, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. And those logs themselves will become useful as fungus, and you'll
Yeah.
have this mycelium-filled, lovely, humus-rich compost to add to things. Plus all the edges as well with the logs as well. It all ties in quite nicely.
Yeah, it has got that very sort of connected to the earth feel.
Yeah, definitely.
The symbiotic relationship between wildlife and gardening is captured beautifully in the RSPB and the RHS Swift Garden, designed to raise awareness of the plight of this incredible bird.
Well, this really is a cracking space. It does everything. Plantings in layers, provides lots of different habitats, which means there's homes and food for so much in here. If I was gonna say to do one thing in my garden, just to encourage more birds, it would be don't cut the herbaceous perennials back. Leave them for the winter. And I know not everybody's convinced. So, middle of the winter, it's Sunday morning. I go downstairs, I've got the dog, the cat, and a cup of coffee. I'm looking out of the window, and all of a sudden there was this flurry. And for the next 20 minutes, I watched a flock of finches come in and literally pillage all the tiny little seed heads in the herbs in the front garden. So there you go. If I was going to say one thing, let's not be quite so tidy in our garden.
One famous face supporting the Swifts is none other than comedian and musician Bill Bailey.
Hello there.
Hello, Bill. How are you, boy?
Adam, very nice to see you.
And you, sir. So, man of many talents, as we know. Tell us about Bill the Gardener.
Well, the thing is for me, the garden is a bit of a sanctuary, you know, because I'm away a lot. You know, I come home and I just want something where I can go out and just relax. I love this sort of scenario, which is quite wild. I like to have a little bit of a wild area in the garden where you attract butterflies and bees.
When did bird watching, being interested in birds, come to your life?
Well, I think really it started when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My mum and dad and my grandparents, me, the whole Bailey family, the entourage, we would go out to a bird sanctuary or a bird reserve, and that was a typical day out. And I think my mum, more than anyone, she had this sort of desire for me to foster this love of nature. And I remember her saying to me, I just want you to love nature. That was a mantra that she repeated over and again, and it's had this effect on me throughout my entire life. There's nothing more pleasurable than when you're touring, when you've got a day off, to just take a pair of bins and just head off and into somewhere, some part of the countryside, wherever you are, and just take a moment.
Yeah. But now you have got that voice, and you want to use that ultimately to talk about the swift.
Yeah, exactly. And the swift, well, it's an iconic bird of the British summer, and it seems extraordinary, doesn't it, that the numbers have declined so dramatically in the last 30 years. I think nearly something like 70% down since 1995, which is shocking, really. So I think anything that we can do to encourage the numbers back up is a good thing.
I think also I love about swifts as well is the slightly sort of generational thing in, you know, if they build a home, they pass it on.
Yes.
Which is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly, like a swift box or one of these swift bricks here can provide a home for, you know, multiple generations of swifts or other nesting birds. And that is just a simple thing like that can have this extra consequence.
Well, mate, honestly, for you to talk about the swift, I think it's massively helpful for not only the birds but us as gardeners. So thank you, my friend.
No, you're very welcome.
Hampton Court!
How are we?
Good. Oh, very good. What is sort of going to stay with you from today?
I mean, there's loads. The show gardens are full of ideas, but I really like coming here to buy plants because it's the height of the flower season, isn't it? So going around all the stalls out there and choosing some additional flowers, which is kind of new for me because usually I'm about the veg. So it's quite nice to embrace this floral side.
It's very hard to resist.
I know.
Because I have to say that I also succumbed.
Right.
I've just been visiting a wonderful cut flower grower and I may have come away with a dahlia.
What's a dahlia?
Exactly.
You don't even notice it.
You can never have enough dahlias, can you?
What about you?
I think I've had a lovely conversation about chilies. Because I'm definitely the person that starts with 2 or 3, then goes to another show, comes home with 2 more, 5 more, 6 more, walks to the greenhouse when all the chilies are becoming ripe and going, why did I buy so many chilies?
Have you bought more?
Yeah.
Of course he has.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that's it from us, from the RHS Hampton Court Palace Garden Festival. But the show is open until Sunday, and I really recommend that you come along if you can.
And I'm sad to say we won't be here next week because of Wimbledon. But the following week, we will be RHS Flower Show, Wentworth Woodhouse.
It's a new, stunning location for our last flower show of the season. So hopefully we'll see you there.
In the meantime, look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
As Adam just mentioned, Gardener's World will be back at the same time, Thursday the 17th of July. Discover how a creative genius rebuilt his world. Press red now as Heston Blumenthal explores My Life with Bipolar on iPlayer. And as they finally make their long-awaited comeback tonight, go inside the rise and fall of Oasis now on BBC Sounds.